Welcome everyone to FABTECH. We are Manufacturing Talk Radio, and we are at the fabulous FABTECH 2015. We're at the McCormick Center in Chicago, next to Lake Michigan, and we are here this morning with NASCAR legend Rusty Wallace. His accomplishments both on and off the track are widely recognized. He's in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, the International Motorsports Hall of Fame, the National Motorsports Press Association Hall of Fame, and the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. Rusty, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a lot of Hall of Fames, isn't it?
It is. Congratulations. That's a lot of hard work.
That's what happens when you win some races and you retire from driving a car. They put you in all these Hall of Fames.
But then you have to put all that information on your business card, and your business card must be a folder.
Oh, yeah. My business card, I just put my name on it, my company. That's about it. I don't want to put too much extra stuff on there, but no, I've had a great career. It's been a lot of fun, and my gosh, up here at FABTECH today, I cannot believe how huge this place is. I've heard all about it, but I've never been here. And this morning, actually, I'll be doing a speech, and it's going to start about 9 o'clock here at McCormick Center, so we'll see how that turns out. But going to talk about a little bit of teamwork, talk about all this equipment, how teamwork is so important using this equipment and making you go fast on the racetrack.
Well, you've got one of your sponsors here at the show. Who are they?
I do, Jet Tool Company, and real excited about that. This is the second year with the company with our short track team at Rusty Wallace Incorporated down here in Mooresville, North Carolina. We operate a short track team, a Saturday night race team, basically you could call it. And Jet makes some of the coolest tools for this style of racing. I mean, between their cutting tools, their lathes, their bridge ports, their band saws, all their hand tools, it's really a dream come true for our team. And that equipment really works fantastic on a lot of racers. They love it, but they're here. So later on in the day, I'm gonna go say hello to those guys and see what's going on. But guys that I worked with before, Mazak, the Mazak guys are here. They were with Team Penske. I noticed that folks from Miller Electric, they've been one of our welding sponsors for a long time when I was driving. They're here, so I see a lot of people. So it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out today.
That's kind of fun to see all the guys that actually help build parts of that race car.
Yeah, I mean, they really did. I mean, I'll never forget when we first got Mazak as one of our sponsors at Team Penske. The pieces and parts we were manufacturing were just something we couldn't do before. I mean, we were actually taking cylinder heads on the race cars and hand porting the cylinder heads, one cylinder head at a time, putting it on the flow bench and flowing it. And if we got one good set, my gosh, we would run that set to death, But now with Mazak, my gosh, we were spitting those cylinder heads out left and right. And then if we wanted to make a change, we can make it nothing flat. So, I mean, making the part and getting it on the racetrack the very next week was something that was unheard of. But those guys at Mazak helped us get that done.
And now 3D printing will help that along even more so.
Oh yeah, I mean, talk about 3D printing, that's incredible. I mean, I was out at the folks at Oakley Sunglasses out in California the other day, watching a pair of sunglasses rise out of that liquid going, how do they do that? And I still say, how do they do that? It's just unreal.
Right. Downstairs they have a F-22 fighter plane, a model of it. It's about 15 feet long and about 18, 20 feet wide, and was all 3D printed. That
is a huge 3D printer to make an airplane 15 foot. I mean, amazing. Gosh darn.
I was reading an article on a racing team that was having problems with their oil pump. And they designed the oil pump so it could take the incredible pressures at those high speeds you guys run at. But they couldn't make it. And after 2 years of failure, they took it to a 3D printer in Oregon, I think the state of Oregon, who made it in 5 hours.
Yeah, isn't that unreal? I mean, we'd sit there at those shops and we would just hand carve with the primitive tooling that we had back then. And by gosh, you know what? We won a ton of races, Yeah. When it was all said and done, I had 55 wins and all these Hall of Fames we're talking about. And that was just seat of the pants and ingenuity and the right people that we hired to help us. But my gosh, I mean, problems we could never solve now are solved, just like you said, in 3 or 4 hours. And that is one of the things that's made the competition so tight right now. In NASCAR, you got 43 competitors, and you talk about qualifying, they'll go out there maybe qualified 181 miles an hour. Well, last place nowadays is 179 miles an hour. It used to be like 15 miles an hour apart. Now it's so close. Everybody's got the same equipment. They're all using the same equipment. So honestly,
It's just the skill of the driver.
it's the skill of the team, the teamwork. It's how the team, and I'll be talking about this today, it's how the teams all get along and how they work together and hiring just the right people and utilizing their skills.
And that's so important, is to build that team. Rusty, in building that team, do you see a lot of churn? You know, you just got to go through a lot of people before the magic happens.
You know, you do see a lot of turn, and that turn sometimes gets real frustrating because we see turn because other teams are paying more money and buying them out from underneath of us. And what happens, you sign these non-competes with these guys where you work real hard on cylinder head development, or building upper and lower control arms, or building spindles and hubs with low drag and special coatings, and these guys know everything. Well, your team is putting all the money into that. We're spending all this money to develop these things, and then we're winning the races. And so then you look at the other guys that aren't winning the races, they say, well, I know how to win. I'm just going to go hire that guy. And they go and they double that guy's salary, and off that guy goes. And that non-compete, he said, look, I didn't tell him nothing. And he really did tell him everything, you know. So it's not that you're losing your guys because of performance on the track or stuff. I mean, it really gets down to they feel like they can better themselves with more money and different teams, and they got their kids and their family back at home and they go for it. Now, I will tell you, a lot of times they sink like hell. A lot of times they go to that team, they don't do well. Those guys that hired them say, hey, I thought this was the secret, and those guys weren't the secret. And then those guys also go say what I always say, there is no I in a team, so it wasn't that guy that caused it, you know, it was the whole team that made it happen.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm sure that's a real trick. Now, what are you doing these days? You drove, you won 55 races, you were very high in the standings in lots of other races, you had great career earnings. What's Rusty Wallace doing today?
Right now, I'm having a time of my life. I really am. I've got 8 car dealerships in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm in the car business. We sold about 17,000 cars last year. We're doing real well in that business. If you guys know, in manufacturing, the car business is on fire right now.
It is.
We're making a lot of cars, selling a lot of cars, making a lot of people happy. So between the 8 car dealerships and my son's race team, and that's where my office is at, that's one thing. But right now, I am the analyst for the Motor Racing Network. I do radio. And so I'm covering the majority of the NASCAR Cup races on the Motor Racing Network. So this weekend, I'll be leaving. In fact, a couple days from now, I'll be heading out to Phoenix, Arizona to call the second to last race of the year with all the guys at MRN. Just a bunch of cool guys, real smart guys. I work up in the booth with a fellow by the name of Joe Moore, another fellow by the name of Jeff Striegel. They got great radio voices. They've helped me a ton. But I've been able to bring a lot of analytical behind the wheel stuff to the broadcast.
Yeah.
So, and that's what MRN never had. The Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR, never had that before. They had their announcers, their turn guys, their pit road guys, but they never had anybody in the booth that actually drove the car. And so that's kind of what I'm bringing to the game. I'm just about to complete my first full year of doing that. I started off this year calling the Daytona 500. And now they've asked me to come back again next year, so I re-up with the Motor Racing Network, so I'll be back in 2016 doing the same thing.
Gosh, that's fun stuff to do. It sounds so exciting to watch, and the races to watch are incredible these days.
Well, they really are, and there's super tight competition. I mean, and NASCAR is working like crazy to get the competition tighter yet than what it already is. Yeah, they've reduced the downforce in the front of the car and the back of the car. They've backed about 125 horsepower out of the engines. The problem was these doggone cars were going so fast. They're running over 220 miles per hour going into the corners, like here at Chicagoland Speedway. And so they finally backed them off about a little over 100 horsepower, like I said, and it slowed them down and made the competition tighter. And I think the fans are going to like it better.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. I think it's going to be a better watch. Next year, they have announced that all the races next year, they're going to operate with the lower downforce package. And what that means is that the cars, after about 10 or 15 laps, are going to start slipping and sliding on the track more. And there's going to be more what I call more haves and have-nots. You're going to see the guys running at the bottom of the track, the middle of the track, all the way up against the wall, out there running around searching for grip. and that grip is hard to find. But when they had all that downforce, everybody had grip. But now when you take that downforce away, it's going to take these really smart guys that know how to set these cars up, and the drivers that are probably the better drivers that can actually carry the car, I call it, and separate them a little bit. So I think it's going to be a better watch personally.
You know, it's amazing to me that we see so many things. For instance, we've got our smartphones in our pockets. Those really came out of, if you look back in time, the NASA space program, where they had to miniaturize everything. There's a lot of things that have come out of motorsport racing that are in today's cars, not the least of which is disc brakes. But there's got to be many others.
There is. I mean, my gosh, the safety factors. Oh my gosh. I mean, what do you think about when you take a NASCAR car and you plow it in the wall at 200 miles an hour and the driver crawls out of it? I mean, I'm telling you what, the car companies have learned a lot through safety and crush zones and different things through racing. Coefficient of drag, a lot of the special coatings we're using on our wheel bearings and on our piston sleeves and on the crankshafts and everything we can to make more power and gain more fuel mileage because of that. Is a lot of that stuff comes out of racing. But I will tell you, we learn a lot from the car companies too. But when you take these racers and you put a little pressure on them and say, look, you guys have all got exactly the same pieces and parts, the difference is going to be, you know, the last 2%, which is going to make these cars really go. That's where coatings came in. That's where digging down, thinking you had the best you could possibly get, and going a little farther and finding more, which puts you in victory lane.
Wow.
So just to change the subject for a moment, and you're going to be doing your keynote speech shortly. Give us a little insight into how you're presenting your teamwork philosophy in the race car business as it relates to manufacturing.
Well, what I'm going to probably do is just, when you talk about teamwork, you're not really talking about pieces and parts at the moment. You're actually talking about the individuals on a team, and I've had many, many of them, how they get along, how they relate, how they hang, how they respect each other, how they react when they come to work every single day. You know, my gosh, there's been so many times I walk into the shop and I see one guy, and he's got this frown on his face, and then the next day he's okay, then the following day he's got the frown back on his face, and he becomes a bad apple in the team. And instead of coming to work with a smile on your face and excited about, you know, building some really trick equipment that's going to make your car go faster, you find yourself in a personality management business, and it just turns into a terrible deal. So, and then like I mentioned earlier about there's no I in a team. My gosh, I've had so many guys bought away from me because they're really smart guys, and when those guys all go out, a lot of them sink. They don't prosper, and so, you know, you go out there dominating the race, and the radio guys and the TV guys are going, there's Rusty Wallace in a 2-car dominating, look at him. And they might think it's me, but it's not me. It's how well my engine guys develop that motor. Or what about when I'm dominating the race and I come down pit road with maybe 5 laps to go, it's a key pit stop, and all of a sudden they hang a lug nut. One little 60-cent lug nut loses you the race, you know. Or what about you make just a bad pit call, you might say, hey, we only need to take on 12 gallons of gas instead of 18 because we can spend less time at the pit so we can get it done, and it backfires on them. You know, there is no just Rusty, and there is no I. It's the whole entire damn team. And just about the time you think there's the one important guy, that's the time you're going to fail. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk a little bit about probably some of the pieces and parts I see at FABTECH here and how fabrication is just incredible. And one of the big things that I've noticed is probably the thing that puts you in victory lane better than anybody is building the part, developing the part, and getting it on the race car into the track the very next week faster than the other guy. So, I mean, I mentioned cylinder heads earlier when you and I were talking. There's so many times we'd say, hey, boy, this set of cylinder heads, it's better, man. We just made 8 more horsepower, but we can't get the second cylinder head done in time, you know, to get it on the engine this week. Nowadays, we develop one cylinder head, we duplicate it to the second cylinder head, we knock them out. We get this thing, get the valve springs on it, baby, get this, you know, get them on a motor. We got them at the race that week. Or what about maybe a hub that the tire hooks to? And we found that, hey, with this bearing combination, it rolls a little easier. It's less coefficient of drag. So we can get it on the car quicker. So I'm going to talk about, as a team, how we've been innovative Our guys have dreamed up ideas. They really thought a lot of things. Then we used our tooling and our manufacturing capability to get it on the car to get to victory lane before the rest of them. So I'm sure my 30-minute speech is going to go like that. then we're going to open up for a question and answer, and we're going to have, that's when it really takes off. When you do those question and answer sessions, that's my favorite deal right there.
Gives you the great talking ability.
Yeah, it does.
You're doing real well here, and we haven't asked you one question.
Well, we don't want to hold you up. We know you've got a keynote address here to do at FABTECH 2015, a terrific show. There's something like 750,000 square feet of equipment here for people to see, which is an incredible thing. We appreciate you being with us, Rusty. Rusty Wallace, NASCAR champion, in more Hall of Fames than I could get out here in the introduction. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, it's been a lot of fun. Really appreciate it, guys.
Take care.
Okay.
Thanks, Rusty.
Thank you.